that lighter smokers would find it much, much harder to quit than heavier smokers, which actually sounds counterintuitive. But if you think about it for a moment, it makes perfect sense. You see, very heavy smokers tend not to have any illusion that they enjoy smoking. They're just smoking because they can't stop, and they're very aware of this. Pleasure is nowhere in the building, quite frankly. However, people that smoke 2 or 3 or 4 cigarettes a day, they look forward to each cigarette like it's the most precious thing on the planet. And because this is primarily a psychological addiction, I think that makes that person just as addicted as a chain smoker. Over the years of doing this, I have actually come to realize that there is only one cause of failure using this approach, and it's a failure to follow the instructions. So your second instruction today is to follow all the instructions. Because if you do, by the end of this presentation, you will be a happy non-smoker. And all you have to do is follow the instructions. Your third instruction is to accept and to acknowledge that this is a technique that works for all types of smoker. And that means you too. There is no type of smoker for whom this won't work. I mean, think about it. We see over 50,000 smokers in our seminars every single year. Please trust me when I tell you, we see every conceivable type of smoker. And it's effective for all of them, so long as you follow the instructions. So, what is this amazing, magical, miracle quit smoking method? Well, over the years, there have been a number of wonderful descriptions of this technique. Some of the ones I really like. Sir Anthony Hopkins, the actor, quit smoking using Alan Carr's Easy Way, and he describes it beautifully. He says that being a smoker is like being trapped in a very complicated maze. And even though you want to get out, you don't know where to start. You don't know where to look. You don't know how to navigate your way out. He says it's as if Alan has a map of this maze, and he can help you just navigate your way out very simply. I love this description. It's such a wonderful and accurate one. Another description of this method I love, a journalist was writing a piece about Alan several years ago. They had a great way of describing this. They described it as a smoker's way to stop smoking. I love that, and it resonates actually with many, many, many smokers. Because, you know, let's face it, these days being a smoker in North America, it's a nightmare. You know, everyone's on your case, everyone's in your face, trying to humiliate you and make you feel guilty and stupid, and basically trying to terrify you into quitting smoking. And of course this doesn't work. And it doesn't work because smokers aren't stupid. Smokers are intelligent, strong-willed people who refuse to be pushed around by these sanctimonious do-gooders who have never smoked a day in their lives. This method is the absolute opposite of all of that sort of stuff. I mean, to be honest with you, if you're looking for a lecture on lung cancer and heart disease, you're in the wrong place. That stuff never helped me quit smoking, and if it was going to help you, it would have done it years ago. This approach, Alan Carr's Easy Way approach, I think treats smokers with intelligence and dignity and respect. And quite frankly, there isn't a lot of that being shown to smokers these days in North America. So this is a very, very revolutionary, unorthodox approach, but a very successful one. But I think the best description that I have ever heard of for this technique is one of our previous attendees described it as the opposite of willpower. The opposite of willpower. This, for me, is a fascinating concept. Basically what I'm saying is that if you're able to assimilate everything that goes on during this webcast, by the time you reach the end of this presentation, it would actually take you willpower to smoke a cigarette. It wouldn't take you any willpower whatsoever not to smoke. You would actually have to force yourself to light a cigarette. Now, this is a huge claim to make, and we need to look at this claim in a lot more detail. But before figuring out what the opposite of willpower is, first you have to define, well, what is willpower? Now, by the way, I'm going to refer to all other methods of stopping smoking as willpower, okay? Because you can slap a patch on, you know, you can chew nicotine gum, you can pop these pills, you can go to hypnotherapist, whatever. But if you still believe that the cigarette gives you some pleasure or benefit or crutch, you're going to have a desire to smoke. And you're going to have to try to use willpower to overcome that desire. So, but going back to the question, what is willpower? Well, for me, willpower is very easy to define in a smoking context. It's where, in our minds, we add up all of the terrible disadvantages of being a smoker. The health, the money, the smell, so on and so forth. And we use these things to motivate ourselves to abstain. And the hope is that they will motivate you for long enough that you'll be able to abstain for long enough that one day you'll wake up and the need, the desire, the craving to smoke, whatever you want to call it, miraculously disappears. But those of you who have tried to quit smoking using willpower before know very well, it just doesn't work like that. And this, of course, is why you hear all of these horror stories from people who have quit smoking weeks or months, or in some cases even years ago. Still going nuts in stressful situations, pulling their hair out, having a huge desire to smoke in situations to enable them to relax, and having to use huge amounts of willpower to overcome that desire, even years after they've quit smoking. I mean, I don't know about you, but that doesn't sound like much fun to me. Now, when I was a smoker trying to quit, I used to really beat myself up over my inability to do so. And I always blamed myself. I thought that I was the problem. I thought that somehow I must be too weak or too stupid or too selfish. But now I actually understand smoking. Now I actually understand quitting. I realized that I was not the problem. It was the willpower approach itself that was the problem. Now, I'll let you in on a little bit of a secret here. I don't actually have any willpower. Literally none. So I find it baffling that, frankly, that anyone can quit smoking using willpower, because there are so many flaws in the willpower approach itself. Now, I don't deny that people do quit smoking using willpower, but as Alan said, there are people that can make love standing up on a hammock. It doesn't mean it's the easiest or the most enjoyable way, does it? I think it's really important to understand the weaknesses and flaws in the willpower approach to quitting smoking, because it's really important to understand that, you're not the problem here. The problem is the willpower method itself. And I'm going to illustrate this point by highlighting a couple of the major flaws in the willpower approach to quitting smoking. The first flaw in the willpower approach to quitting smoking is that many of the things that we use to motivate ourselves to quit smoking, they do make you want to quit, but ironically, many of them also make you want to smoke. Now, this sounds illogical, so I will give you an example. Have you seen the latest sort of scare tactics ads on TV? The one I saw most recently was the one with a woman smoking through a tracheotomy, a hole in her throat. Have you seen this ad? Or, well, even if you haven't seen that ad, I'm sure you've seen tons of ones like it. What's the first thing you see when you see an ad like this? All smokers will agree. After seeing an ad like this, it's time to go for a cigarette. I mean, talk about irony. The American and Canadian Cancer Society spending millions, in some cases tens of millions of dollars, airing these ads to try to get people to quit smoking. The first thing a smoker wants to do? Go and have a cigarette. I mean, does anyone see the disconnect here? You see, actually, when you understand smoking, this all makes perfect sense. You see, most smokers, when they're confronted with an image like this on TV, someone smoking through a hole in their throat, they'll go into a kind of denial. It won't be me, it won't be me. You leave the room, you change the channel. But you see, deep down, where you keep all the big stuff, where you keep all the important stuff, there's a part of you that knows very well, that could be me. And of course, this provokes an emotional response that's based around fear and anxiety. Fear and anxiety are extremely stressful emotions. And what's the first thing a smoker wants to do in a stress situation? Exactly, you got it. Go light a cigarette. So this is the first problem with the willpower approach to quitting smoking. Many of the things that we use to motivate ourselves to quit, in this case, fear of death, disease, disability, and so on, it does make you want to quit, but ironically, it also makes you want to smoke because it triggers this fear response. And because as smokers we associate smoking with stress relief, it makes smokers want to smoke more and less at the same time. So this is the first flaw in the willpower approach to quitting. The second flaw in the willpower approach to quitting smoking is that it focuses exclusively on all of the reasons that you shouldn't smoke. The health, the money, the smell, the secondhand smoke, so on and so forth. The problem is that we don't smoke for these reasons. I mean, every smoker knows all of these things about smoke, yet still they smoke. You see, I think when we look a little bit closer, we can see very clearly that willpower tries to solve the wrong problem. It keeps telling you why you shouldn't smoke, but you already know that. Smokers don't need help understanding why they shouldn't smoke. I think smokers need help understanding why they do smoke. You see, we don't smoke for the reasons we shouldn't smoke. We smoke for the reasons we do. So in a sense, willpower is worse than useless. It defines the problem, but it doesn't offer any